Hey, and hello again. This is William the Bastard with some tips that will help you know when you are being remote neural monitored, remote hypnosed, when your thoughts are being read, when subliminal frequencies are being fed into your brain. These are a couple of tips. First of all, you will have a sense of a mild daydream or dazing out type of effect that'll come over you. This may not be very noticeable at first, and you may just catch yourself focusing or pondering on thoughts that you might not otherwise necessarily ruminate over, and catch yourself just kind of zoning out. That's one way to tell when you're receiving these type of things. Another way to tell is if your hearing or your sensitivity is acute enough that you can actually feel an energy, a tingling, or pressure inside the ear canal, one or both ear canals. If you can feel maybe your ear hair or your peach fuzz in your ear canal tingle or activate in some way that you can actually feel a miniature vibration, almost like a very minute vibrational effect within the ear canal. This is more than likely a time when you are being monitored. Things that we can do to assert our authority over our own minds that have worked for me outside of the tonic remedy, which, if under severe attacks will only give you several hours or a few days of relief. Sometimes, if your attacks are not that intense at that point, you will get a lot more relief out of it. But these are things we can do without any purchasing or safeguards or investments that can be costly for TIs. And we don't want to waste our money. We got people trying to keep us down anyway, so here's a couple tips that have worked for me. Think loudly inside of your minds, very loudly, and speak in your thoughts directly to your monitors and remote harassers, saying, "Get out. You are not welcome here. Depart from my mind immediately." You will notice that if you use enough authority and assertiveness in your voice, or your thinking, should I say, you know how we can voice something inside our heads silently without speaking it aloud. This is a method of communicating with these monitors. Be careful. They will come back in attempts to re-infiltrate your thinking. But this will at least disperse them for anywhere from several seconds to several minutes, if not more, dependingly on how intense your monitoring is and who's doing it and what kind of equipment they got or what systems they have hacked into or not, to be able to utilize the technology being used against us. Another thing that seems to have at least a bit of effect is moisture in the ear canal. If you keep your sinus passages clear and you get the tingling effect, or you just know in a gut feeling sort of way that you're being monitored, wet willies, believe it or not, a Q-tip, a moistened Q-tip into the ear will at least have some effect on that sensation, dispersing it temporarily. Yeah, they will find their way back, but these are just things that throw them off Of course, since they're so devoted to harassing us and directing our lives and trying to influence our thinking, it's the least we could do to return the favor, to make it a very bad annoyance for them to do so. Use your fingertip, a Q-tip, something to moisten. I'm not sure how Vaseline or other ointments might work. I haven't tried those. But if you have success with those, let me know. But this has worked for me, the wet willy technique, the wet Q-tip. Also, in states where it's legal and you can obtain a prescription for pot, this is said to work very good. Pot smoke blown into one's ear, the smoke of marijuana. I'm not sure why, but there is testimony that has been given that states that when pot smoke is blown into the ear canal of a voice-to-skull victim, it retards the ability to frequency them in manners that will, harm them or torment them. It brings relief to the torment, which brings me to my next, question, and maybe encouragement to some of you that are in states where pot is legal to try out. Maybe some pot eardrops. Maybe somebody could come up with a formula that is safe to use, that only has the extract of the marijuana plant, the cannabis plant. If it could be done in a way, that won't complicate the hearing process. A safe remedy of pot drops. I want to encourage somebody out there that catches this broadcast to do some experimentation with this, as I am in a state where marijuana is illegal at this point. Michigan is ahead of us. Ohio is running behind here on the medical marijuana thing. So see what results you can get and let us know. And at that point, maybe even states that sort of have restrictions against marijuana, maybe even those states couldn't possibly find substitutes that aren't necessarily pot, that we can use to get a similar effect. Damiana, or maybe some sort of synthetic pot that's not really pot, maybe even hemp or hemp oil, which is a related plant to marijuana and cannabis sativa. These things seem to work for people. So I'm just blabbing this out to let other TIs know that can take advantage of these things, to see what kind of effects you get, and give me some feedback, and tell me what you think of my remedy, well, not remedy, but my relief tonic, and some of these other methods, and keep in touch. Hey, how's it going? Want to cover a couple things. Allurements, baits. This is something that happens when they're trying to reconnect you onto a network or online. If your remote neural monitoring connection has lost its signal to the board that they work off of, they will do baits. If they've lost you during your patterns of sleep, they will also do these baits and allurements and enticements, so you will home in on that frequency. And once you have homed in, then they enter your mind, and that is when they are able to neural monitor you at a much closer proximity and get a far greater amount of data, and also be able to exert a wider variety of influence over your brainwave patterns and your thinking. It also puts you into a state of subjective hypnosis in some cases. So it's important that we always keep in mind their information is incredible. You cannot believe it. It has no credibility to it. That way we hone in a lot less on these baits that they throw out there. They'll say something to grasp your attention, and they'll play games with your ego and play games with your esteem. If they feel they've lost you too far, if they feel it's, like I said, they'll bait directly into grasping our attention by bolstering our emotional ego, by playing into our self-esteem, the human need and want for praise. And they'll say things on purpose to compliment you, just so you hone in on that and pay attention to it. That way, you're susceptible to psych outs, hypnosis, subliminal frequency, etc., voice to skull, remote neural monitoring, and they have full access of control to gain more data, like I said, and to put you into a more subjective state of mind, to where they feel they have more control over you. This is to be kept alert in our minds. We're not always going to be able to resist these things. They're going to get us. This is a constant fight. I'm not saying these are the answers, TIs. I'm saying these are the only things that seem to work for us. So give it a shot. Try our methods. See what you think. Also, get with OSI. Look them up on Facebook. They have just released here this past week, about the facts that these people work off scripts as they send their voices into our minds, and even in subliminal frequency, they'll work off scripts. Some of them will chant alleged curses at you, and people have caught them doing this. Actual curses like, voodoo shit, and other stuff. So, you gotta watch. The negative effects on the mind through repetition are psychologically damning to a lot of people. So you gotta be careful, and continually fight these people off. Fight them out of your head. Scream it in your mind if you have to get them to disperse. Right now, I'm being monitored. I know that. One thing they hate is those that are aware of being monitored. And I told you how to find out if you are. And if you really pay attention, you'll pick up on these trends that kind of let you know when you are. Even if your limit of frequency and ability to hear frequency isn't as acute as some other TIs happen to be. So, keep it in mind. Maybe you're better off not hearing as much, but then again, it's a less aware thing, and they hate awareness. They hate our awareness that they are present in our minds, manipulating them, and a lot of times they are doing just that, and even the targeted individual has no clue of it. Alright, thanks everybody. One of the most recent developments that have taken place, I've took notice in, is the ability for remote neural monitors to work against our focusing skills. When we, as I said, you could go into a zone out or a daydream, and it's quite often when you focus in on something or think of something intensely, or ruminate over something, that your focusing skills as a human being go to work. And at this point, the remote neural monitors will somehow infiltrate that and allow it to work as a form of hypnosis against you, to enter into your thought patterns and to manipulate them in any way possible, if not actually gain full access and control of your mind. It's believed by some that with the most recent remote neural monitoring equipment, a form of full possession can be achieved by the operators of the neural equipment, and that once a state of full possession is achieved, you cannot resist it. You are subject to another person's will who's not even in your body. Don't think this is impossible. This is really happening. I wish that this was not happening. I wish that I was like a Looney Tunes crazy buffoon, absolutely no sense whatsoever guy. That this, I wish that I could even, hate to say this because I like to know what's going on, but I wish I was dumb. And I wish I had no clue. I wish I was like some of you out there that believe TIs aren't really going through this and that we're all off our rockers. I wish I was like you guys. Because then I wouldn't know the things I know. And have to face the things that all of us as victims of this stuff face. Remote neural monitoring is one of the most torturous and invasive processes in the modern world. And it's happening every day, man. You can get this equipment yourself if you search it out online enough, and if you have the capital to purchase it. And if you don't believe me, look into it yourself if you're a critic. I challenge you to. You will find that there are headsets in use right now which can perform, in a sense, telepathy to those networked into a system. Remote telepathy is common, especially with this headset equipment. Star Wars Force is a game where you can actually levitate objects that are contained with your mind. With the power of your mind, no wires, just a headset. It's the Force. And on that note, remote neural monitors, I'm going to let you know something. We, as the victims of this technology, are going to now come together, as many of us as possible, that I can get to share this broadcast with. I call together all victims of remote neural monitoring, remote EEG, electronic harassment, and remote hypnosis, voice to skull, and subliminal frequency. I call all of you together to get with me on May 1st. And let me explain myself. There's something called mental override that we as TIs can utilize to disperse right now, get out the powers of our mind by saying that word. And not even have to say it, but think it in our minds, talking directly to our monitors. And it may take a few times. It may even take a half a dozen times. But you can gain the courage and use your authority in your mind. You can strengthen the harshness and the sternness of your voice. And they will leave. It will. If you use your intensity. Knock them off. You can knock yourself offline. Think it, and it can be done. Another technique, because remote neural monitors are so tuned in to our minds, to our visual cortex, and other parts of our brain, to all of our hemispheres, measuring alpha beta waves and manipulating them. Okay, we can use our powers of visualization to counter-psych them out in our heads via our mental power and process alone. And yes, they may even tell you, well, this will just make you look more crazy. We can just incriminate you more. Don't believe it. Proceed onward, because I know the effects have just that. They are effectual. And they do definitely make some sort of difference. They change something, folks. We can use the power of our minds to visually psych out our remote neural monitors. And if you don't believe it can be done, try this visualization technique. Calm yourself. Go within the recesses of your mind. Visualize a microwave energy bolt or beam at high speed, faster than the speed of light, go directly towards the minds of your remote neural monitors. And you will find that they very quickly vacate the recesses of the hemispheres of your brain. And also on that note, I want to put out information that I can get to you now. If you are a victim of remote neural monitoring, none of this talk I'm telling you right now seems strange at all. This is every day for you. This is what you have lived, what you have experienced. If you're not a victim of this, even if you're just a victim of gang stalking alone, you may think us victims of remote neural monitoring are complete crackpots. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I want to tell all of you, fellow victims of remote neural monitoring, on Wednesday, May 1st, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we are all coming together to unify a visualization technique and exercise to counter-psych each and every one of our remote neural monitors. We may have different aggressors. There may be different agencies and people utilizing this technology against us. Different cults or groups or clubs. Criminal organized operations. Or it could be all one system that has tied all of these types together in some way without their direct knowledge of it. So, on May 1st, we fight back with our minds. We're going to go through a visualization exercise. And I want you to spread the word that at that time, no matter where you're at the U.S., Atlantic all the way to Pacific and all the way out there on the West Coast where I've been. You guys out there, it'll be 4 hours behind our time for you. But if we can all get together at the same moment and do some of our own visual counter-psyching, I think that would be a great idea. And I'm presenting it to you here. And the reason I'm choosing May 1st as our first date to do this is because it's an easy date to remember. And we can get together at that time. Generally, people are getting off work 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If we could just take 9 minutes of our time during that time to think, not just for our own, but for each and every one of us that endure these torturous effects of this technology. If we could all get together at the same time with the same goal in mind, who knows what may happen. I believe all of us are tired of having to endure these torments. And I believe that just about every TI I've ever met is a very decent, intelligent person, if not more intelligent than the average citizen. TIs, spread the word. Let's all do this together. We don't need leaders to guide us. We can move ahead, presenting leadership in each and every one of our independents. Believe in yourselves. Believe in those that you love until you have no reason to believe. And even then, believe in yourself. We can do this together and apart. And we can do this on May 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks, everybody. Spread the word. More on this to come. Here coming up soon, I'm going to be releasing a shorter commercial for the event on May 1st at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, May 1st, 2013, for the multi-psych out, the counter psych out that we as TIs are going to attempt. I want all willing victims of remote neural monitoring to participate in this. I believe it'll be a very positive result for all of us. Also want to do this around the world, not just here in the United States, but all TIs throughout the world that are victims of remote neural monitoring, voice to skull, subliminal frequency, etc., can participate in this. And also don't want to limit the participation to just people that are TIs. If we could also get people to take 9 minutes of their time on that date to think positively for us, to send out a message from their own brains that may not even be monitored on our behalf. If we could get other people to participate, please help us out. Think of this as kind of like a technological prayer of sorts. If you're from a religion that recognizes prayer as a petitionary system to your higher being. Think of this as participating positive energy at the same exact time and sequence together, all on behalf of people that are victims of this abused technology that can be used to help people in so many ways. So many ways these same technologies could be used to really help people, man. But we have these criminals out here that are going around and abusing them. And using them for their sick-minded industries, whatever they may be. Their agency protocols and whatnot. So, let's get together and do the best we can to fight back. Each and every one of us throughout the world, not just in America, but all time zones everywhere. Remember, Eastern Standard Time, American time, 7 p.m., May 1st, 2013 is going to be our first attempt.